This is session 10. And in this session, we're going to be focusing on advocacy and community transformation. You've been working with your kids, and you will be working with your kids on sexual risk avoidance and guiding and directing them towards optimal sexual health. Now, how do we influence our community? How do we advocate for this in our community for our own kids? In this session, we're going to look at the question, man, after learning all we've learned, we're pretty upset, so how should we respond? Second, you're going to learn about the peace engagement process, the process that we use to positively impact for sexual risk avoidance in our community. So how should we respond? I see Christians putting up the gloves, yelling and screaming and protesting outside the legislature building, but often I don't see that helping us. I actually see media twisting the message and using it against us. And then many of us just stick our heads in the sand and do nothing. So how should we respond? What are our school options? Many may leave the public school system, and there are options. You might choose a Catholic school, private school, or homeschool. Many of us may not have that option, and we have to remain in the public school system. Well, the public school system claims to be inclusive of everyone. So how do we work to use that value so that we and the learning needs of our children would be considered? How do we expand inclusivity? And we have some strategies for that. And thirdly, our faith community, how should they respond? Well, our churches, our faith community can teach sexual risk avoidance programs to our youth. They can positively influence in our local communities. They can influence in the public schools. I've had churches that have adopted local schools and built relationship. Our focus for this session is going to be on for parents who need to remain in the public school and how do we expand inclusivity. Before we continue, I want to emphasize we do have to remember that we live in a multi-worldview society. There are some families that are accepting of the CSE training, and they have no problem with it, and that's in alignment with the values of their home. But other families, the CSE curriculum is in conflict with the teaching of the home, and they feel that the government is trying to indoctrinate their children. But we need to keep in mind that schools are mandated to be inclusive of everyone. So let's keep this in mind and use that to our advantage. To positively influence in the community, we have the Peace Engage process. And this process is to equip parents in the church to empower youth and influence culture and schools. In the Peace Engage process, we always start with the facts. Parents, you need to understand the facts that are associated with the sex ed issue. Then, while you're doing that, the second step is the relational process to influence. How do we build relationship and influence? Third, ensure that your children are getting the healthy SRA message. So once you understand the facts and you have some resources to train up your children in this area, make sure you are doing that. And then fourth, you're now ready to start communicating with the school. And you'll communicate faith accommodations that are necessary, and you will communicate your child's differentiated learning needs. And we'll talk about that later on.